Yeah. Tell me about what you do.
So we're a small company, which is great. So I get to wear many hats. My CISO Bob Sterren gave me this great opportunity, and my major job is vulnerability management with our company, and that is it's a huge lift. But I also get to do other things too. I do identity and access management. I do incident response, and or even I'm trying to grow into getting into the DevSecOps area as well. I want to increase my coding. Increasing means like going from 0 to 1, but literally and figuratively. Um, but yeah, so I get to wear a lot of hats and do a lot of things. It can be a lot too, but that's what you learn too. It makes you more well-rounded in the field.
Totally. Yeah. And so your current job, you had one internship before this, and then you came from law enforcement, correct?
Yes.
And so what, how did you first start getting interested in information security? And then what did that transition look like for you?
So I did 22 years in law enforcement. So back in 2017, 2018, a good friend of mine in law enforcement, he left to go and get a master's degree in infosec. And everyone thought it was crazy. Like he had 10 years on the job. He's like, why are you doing that? He got some good recommendations from a good friend at Cisco and said, this is a field to get into, man. He goes, you want to get in sooner rather than later. And now he's doing great. Um, so as I was approaching I started way back in 2000. I don't know how.
Okay.
So I'm young. So as I was trying to think about my next career, and I didn't want to stay in law enforcement my whole life as well. It's very stressful, like any job, but it's a different type of stress and engagement. So 2017, 2018, my friend Chuck goes, you should think about this. So I've been a detective for over 18 years. I had a lot of cyber crimes that were growing. That really increased after 2010 with identity fraud and all that stuff, and many other type of crimes that we don't need to talk about here. But that being said, it was something that I loved. We had a task force in Rhode Island called the Joint Cyber. Well, we still do. I'm just not a part of it anymore. But the Joint Cyber Task Force, I was a part of that, and
That's
got to get
sweet.
many trainings through law enforcement as well. So I applied to get my master's in 2018, or start my master's at URI, the University of Rhode Island, for those people that don't know. And I graduated in 2021, got an internship, and it was just a perfect pivot to my next career in life, as well as the the job type of law enforcement and infosec is very similar. It's about threats. It's about looking for risk, the probability of risk. It's just different in terms of going from person to a laptop, but or a desktop. So
Yeah.
there's many similar traits and skills, and that's what gave me the right drive to go into infosec. And I tell my boss every week we have our one-to-ones, and I just love this field. It has been the greatest transition I could ever ask for. Yes, it has many challenges, but it's something that what I was learning in 2018 at URI is already so different now. 5 years later, and the way you have to continually grow and adapt. That's law enforcement. You can't just sit there and do what you were doing in the 70s or 80s or 90s. Just like in cybersecurity, you have to keep growing and learning, or you become stale and you're useless. So that's
Totally.
something else I love about this field. Like you don't just sit there and like, oh, I'm all set. You have to keep learning. So if you have the drive, you'll do great.
Yeah. So you were on that task force. I'm curious, when you interacted with civilians working cyber related course cases, what did you find was like the biggest thing people could do to protect themselves? I don't know if that's the right question.
No, that's great. So the biggest, just like in any company too, is education. The naivety of people is just people are inherently and generally nice and good and hopeful. Being in law enforcement and even similar, well, very similar in the infosec world, we deal with the bad people all the time, and those bad people only account for like 3 to 5% of the population. People are generally good. So the same thing doing with that cyber task force was people just generally like, oh no, they're being nice to me. They're sending me this very generous email for an opportunity. Simple things where to teach you to be more cautious. This is something that was easy for me to do back in law enforcement as well as in infosec. So
Mhm.
the fact that people are so good is great, but uh, teaching them not to be so naive, like my parents, is is a huge benefit.
Yeah.
And you feel like you just think, oh, like everyone knows this. They don't.
Nope. And I've been on a kick lately reading like psychology related things, one to understand my own behavior, but also to understand others. And it's interesting that the bad actors will play on your emotions and your emotional needs of um, I mean urgency is the easiest example, fear, all of these. It's so easy to play off of those if you know the right things.
Oh yeah, they're professionals. They're good. If they actually put their intelligence into a good a good job, they'd be great. But you know, it's sad.
So we initially met through some LinkedIn conversations talking about EPSS. Um, that's a really cool in the field of risk-based prioritization. Um, and you mentioned to me earlier that you're part of a group there as well. You mind telling me a bit about what EPSS is for those watching and what how you're involved there?
Yeah, so I started in this field over a year and a half ago, and as I'm trying to look for ways with vulnerability management, there is so much that you have to remediate to fix, and it just got also overwhelming. I'm like, I can't. This is too much for my company to adjust to. So I started doing some research, and I found out about this thing called EPSS. I actually heard about it from a very popular person on LinkedIn, Walter Haydock.
Yeah.
I had a one-on-one with him and trying to get learning everyone in the field. And he was telling me about EPSS and how it's a tool I should look into. So they use a thing called the EPSS, and that stands for the Exploit Prediction Scoring System. Um, and it's a great tool about prioritization and about what is actually being exploited now. A lot of times, so we go through audits, and a lot of companies have compliance and regulations, and you have these auditors saying you need to remediate and fix all the highs and criticals in this timely fashion and be perfect. That's just not reality. The fact of the matter is, most companies have a ton of issues and vulnerabilities, and the average company only can remediate between 5 and 15% of the highs and criticals per month. So with that being said, the EPSS gives you another tool that of those 5 to 15% that you can only remediate every month, you're only hitting the highs and criticals, the highest ones. And you think you're keeping yourself safe, but that's not actually true with those CVEs based on the CVSS scores. Nothing against CVSS either. I'm part of that SIG as well, as we're going to version 4. But what it does is it gives you the exploit prediction about what's happening over the last 30 days. If this is an actual threat and risk to a company. So when a company can realize that and remediate that risk, as opposed to this high CVS score for whatever, which hasn't been exploited ever in the past 10, 14 years, it doesn't make us any safer. It's an illusion. So the EPSS is actually doing something to actually delve into the problem and reduce risk.
Yeah. The analogy I always use is there's two extremes on patching. One is 0%. I'm going to spend no time on it to achieve the goal of spending less time by patching nothing. And on the other extreme is I'm going to spend an extreme amount of time and patch everything. If you're anywhere in the middle, you want to make sure you're patching the right things.
Exactly. It's a good analogy.
I made a LinkedIn post once about like how do you reduce time spent on patching, and the funniest comment was just don't patch.
Oh, actually, I saw that.
Group, you mentioned the EPSS SIG group. Sounds like you're a part of that. What does that do, and like what's the goal of the group?
The goal of the group, so much of EPSS is based on the data from companies about what's actually being exploited. So the more that, and no one's making money off of this too. It's not a product. It's actually people just volunteering their time with this tool. And this isn't the end all tool either. With Tenable or other companies, um, Qualys, Rapid7. they're all part of the vulnerability management. But with EPSS is using that tool for prioritization, it gives you better things to address. So with the SIG group, we all get together every biweekly, and we have all the meetings during the time, and we're trying to get the word out there about what it is and how it's influential to companies to use. On top of with you know the CBSS scores, SSVC, um, and there's my the Sysdig Kev, which has now over 1,000 known exploitable vulnerabilities listed, which is crazy. So the more data that we can get in Jay and Sasha's tool will get more accuracy about what's being actually exploited and true. And no one can predict 0 days. That's why they call 0 days. But now with this tool, you can get to what's happened in the past 30 days to reduce the risk of the famous Log4j incident in December 2021.
Yeah, that's great.
And I mean, the think tank of these people, and I'm just a part of it. I mostly just learn and listen and see how I can apply it in my job. But the people are amazing that are part of this SIG. And I think it's over 240 members now, but you know, it's going to keep growing. And the more it grows, the better it is for everyone in the InfoSec field.
Yeah. So one of the big things with EPSS that I really like is on any given InfoSec team, you have limited resources, limited tools, limited time. And so if you can patch 10% of your vulnerabilities rather than 60%, it makes a huge difference. I think you were saying earlier you've been exposed to, a smaller business. What do you think are like the biggest challenges facing small businesses with security?
Number one is just like with my job, and it's a challenge, and I love it, and I embrace it. Is you have to wear many hats. Many larger companies did like my time job would be vulnerability management. So that being said, on the flip side, the tech ops, the net ops people, those uh, architect engineers, they don't have or they don't have the bandwidth, the people to do all this work all together. So even patching and updating or remediating or getting a regular schedule, they don't have one person that that's their full time job. That's someone's job on top of six other things. So that's a challenge with a small business that we have, or most companies have. All small companies have. So the best way to marry that though is just give them the right context, the right tools, and understand. We are in the InfoSec field about risk. As long as we're reducing the probability of risk based on what we can work with, that's the best we can do. The thing we have too is we have the risk register. So
Nice.
we just know that this is a risk that is inherent. We don't have the 30 or 40 people to address this right now. So this is something we understand. We're trying to minimize that as well, be aware of it, and watch it. And that's all you can do.
Yeah. Can you
Or just do zero.
just do nothing? Some do. Can you explain really quick what a risk register is?
Yeah, so we evaluate, and my partner Aisha, this is one of her many hats that she wears on the InfoSec team with risk management. The risk register is acknowledged risk that the company has that we've uncovered or found, or it just came up by an incident or an event. We just evaluate each risk and the probability of it impacting us, how great it is, how much it needs to be addressed. Is it one of those things that we need to drop everything and just tell the company they need to just do it now? Or as opposed to, all right, we'll give you time, we'll revisit this, and pretty much keep reminding the risk owner in our company, respectively, that you have to do something about this. We'll give you this timeline, but here it
Yeah, that's
is.
great.
And if the risk increases, then we let them know.
Yeah. I've never really used a risk register much before. I've done something similar in my personal life where I've looked at like what are the highest risks and impact. And I was shocked to find that like driving on the road is one of the highest risks in my life because you can easily die that way.
It's true.
And I do it every day. But I don't know if you follow Brent Dieterding on LinkedIn. He puts risk reduction in a really simple to understand way. He kind of starts with almost a risk register, but he says, what will reduce my risk the most for the least amount of cost? He says, like, we don't have to be perfect, but if we can hit the highest return on investment items to reduce our risk, like that, then we do that, and we get to a state of kind of not continuum, but where we can say we accept this risk, we've taken care of this risk, and this is what we're working on. We're just gonna kind of keep going like this, and that's the goal to get to.
It's true. You know, it cracks me up. Every time you leave your house, you're putting yourself at risk, but it's the amount of risk you want to take as well. It also kind of relates to, I love when people say, "Don't record me, don't record me." You have all these videos of people being recorded because you're taking my privacy and stuff. Well, the minute you left your house or get out of your car or whatever, you're recorded 90% of the time wherever you are, unless you're like in the middle of the desert. So your privacy is already gone. So
It's,
don't tell me about risk.
dude, privacy is so crazy. I have another interview I did, and that's coming out soon, and it's all about privacy. And I recently read a book called Tracers in the Dark. Have you ever heard of it?
No, but this sounds intriguing.
It's about all of the dark web market busts and how they traced it through cryptocurrency. And like half the book or more is about like the tracing through this cryptocurrency and the clues that they're picking up. But anytime anybody like used a normal phone with Google accounts or anything like that, it was about one sentence like we got a warrant, we got their info and arrested them. Like that was it.
Yeah,
So the expectation normal citizens have of privacy is way higher than it should be. And I use Gmail too. I know Gmail reads all of my email and the government can access it. So I
it's insane and crazy. I was at the RSA this past April in San Fran, and this talk by this great Russian hacker, and he was doing this for years and stealing people's money left and right. And the one way he got caught was Interpol, all the cops throughout the world were looking for him. He was on he, he was on Instagram. He did a photo on Instagram where he was in Amsterdam because he finally got out of Russia, and they're like, he's right there. He's in Amsterdam. He got whacked because of Instagram one post.
dude, that's so bad. That's unbelievable. Yeah, so when I talk to folks, one of the things that I learn a lot about is attack surface management and that space. Are you familiar with that kind of tool set?
I use the Shodan tool. On Shodan,
Hmm.
one of the first things when I started at my company is I threw them into Shodan, and there, there was some instances that they needed to clean up, and it's almost doing like it was a social engineering exercise to see, how is someone going to do surveillance on my company? What are they going to say? What is going to be enough to get them to the doorway? And if you limit that, there's stuff that you need out there, but it also shows you all of the devices and possibly IoT stuff. So Shodan is just amazing.
Yeah,
I'm a lifetime member now.
nice. Did you get it on the discount?
Yes, I did. Good job.
I haven't used Shodan much. If somebody were new to Shodan, what would you recommend searching? Is there like a specific query or anything like that that you remember?
You could throw in your favorite company. Just throw in your favorite company. It's going to give you all their who is, their DNS and everything. And you'll also get to see a lot of devices and stuff pop up. So I'm not going to name out companies right now, but just that and seeing that from an IP address or IPs and the research on that, and how it's also tied in and mimicked on an HTTP site by China or Russia, trying to get some of the similar URLs that they're trying to copy, and that's what's setting up possibly future phishing emails as well. So it's an amazing tool among many. And actually, EPSS, we're trying to get our data through Shodan soon too.
No way.
So
and
Yeah.
they'll take it in. And you'll be able to see, you know, identified vulnerabilities with the EPSS scores as well. Am I understanding that right?
Yes.
That's
And getting that feedback as well about the accuracy and other feeds. So
that's
Shonen
slick.
is a great resource among many. The thing in this world that I'm learning every week, there is so many companies, not companies, but tools and people like yourself and your friend that created the Navi tool. You know that open source is is an amazing thing, and you stay current, you follow up, you get all the blogs and the weekly things about check this out, see how it can apply in your job for security.
Yep.
I love that people love security, which I'm not used to coming being a former cop. So people don't usually love us.
Yeah, I think some folks take it for granted a little bit because the amount of excitement in security and the willingness to help and share is pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's a great I don't want to say fraternity, but it's a great group of males and females in this profession that all they want to do is help. You know, not to push other sites too, but like Cyber Judo, they're on LinkedIn as well, but they do all these like free trainings and free sources and free guides, and they're one of many that are out there that are just trying to help and educate and get the push out for everyone to everyone to be security. So one of the things we're trying to do in our company too is with a security champion program. Dustin Lear, he's on LinkedIn as well, but Lehr. He's pushing a new thing. The name of this company is it's called Catalyst with a K, about creating a security champion program. And when you do that, it's not about making everyone an infosec person. But if I can teach a dev person or an engineer or an IT person or even someone in HR about security and what it means and how it is means to their life personally and how that impacts them and their footprint, as well as carrying it over to their daily work job or daily work behavior and just reading emails and being curious and doing the validation and check. And you're bringing security as a normal behavior. It's a normal process, not just the 4 or 5 people on a security team or a big company, 30 or 40 people. So it's just so we're trying to create that champion, the security champion, where everyone earns it and becomes a better person, a better representative for themselves in the company.
Yeah, that's really cool. I've heard this from a couple CISOs on LinkedIn where they treat their employees almost like not like their kids, but they're there to protect them, not just at work, but in their personal accounts and life as well because it affects work so much. Um, I mean,
Absolutely.
I see stuff where there's screenshots of hackers getting into employees' personal computers, and that's how they get into the uh, the organization.
Yeah, it's true.
So interconnected. So you,
Well, we use some of these tools, but where they're scraping the dark web, that scary place, which is just crazy. And we'll see, like I'll see personal people from my company where their personal emails are being scraped, then linked into our company. So it's about letting them know, all right, now all steps of what they need to do now, ASAP, change their passwords, do multi-factor, all this fun stuff. It's annoying to people, but again, it's out there. So you're trying to create where you're actually taking your work home, literally. And we're a fully remote company, so, which is even worse.
yeah, I'm curious how you're scraping the dark web. Have you ever used dehashed?
Yes, yes.
Nice. It's one of my favorite tools.
It's a great tool.
It's fantastic.
Great. Did you create it?
Did I create it? No,
Yeah.
no way,
I
bro.
was gonna man, great job.
So, speaking of creating and helping, we've talked about that over the past couple minutes. There's a lot of folks trying to up level their skills, get into higher roles, get into the industry. You've gone through this. I mean, in the past 3 years, I've gone through it in the past couple of years. What do you think has been the most efficient and effective way to up level, not just up level, but make your career meaningful here as well? I see you a lot on I think you interact with a lot others on LinkedIn a lot. You're in this group. You do a lot of technical stuff that seems to be effective. Like, what are your recommendations?
Well, so one of the things that made it easy for me, and I see it different for a lot of people getting into infosec, is number one, uh, gaining the soft skills, being a good communicator, sharing, talking, representing, being inquisitive. A lot of people I feel might come into this field with a very technical background and not have the soft skills just to be day to day. You cannot just be a computer. You got to be a person and teach and educate and talk to them. So with that being said, I try to improve my soft skills regardless by being very intertwined in what's going on, getting daily feeds. I was sharing with some of my coworkers, but um, all the sites I get and link to, I'm getting that daily push of what's happening now. Just like yesterday with the curl vulnerability with Daniel Stenberg, they created curl. Um, Being up to date in that moment. So I don't realize that 30 days later, I can already tell my team, my company, get on this. LinkedIn is a huge resource. When I started long ago, I thought LinkedIn was only just looking for a job. Now it's truly a forum, which, that's how, I mean, well, how we met. It's about education and learning from each other and then pointing to, hey, I don't know this, but I know a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy who can get you that information. You know, so getting involved in LinkedIn, doing there's a lot of free trainings out there. There's a lot of free webinars. I so my daily work schedule looks crazy because I have all these webinars that I subscribe to every week about learning about new things that are coming up in threat intelligence and whatever's going on in terms of recent incident responses and events, um, and recording all that stuff as well. Where when I get to my job at around whatever time during the day, then I'll go watch those things. So it's the constant education, the constant learning in the field, and being in the moment. And in terms of technical stuff, the biggest programming language to be a part of is learning Python. You start learning Python and what that entails. That gives you a step up already about you're already going to know how to engage with a potential hack as well as how to prevent it as well, and just understanding the nuts and bolts behind it. So uh, what's another one too? PowerShell, learning PowerShell skills, and all this stuff is, they'll have these companies or businesses that are trying to charge you for this stuff, but a lot of this is free, and it's not hard to find. You can use the Google machine or something similar,
Yeah,
like DuckDuckGo.
there's a lot of yeah, there's a lot of good free trainings out there, or just low cost, like 10 or 20 bucks. You don't need to go out and buy a SANS training for 4,000 or
Yeah,
$1,000 course or anything like that.
yeah. Actually, I just applied for because it's Cybersecurity Awareness Month. This is our InfoSec month. We love it. Um, that what's a company? EC Council,
Hmm.
where they give you 100 trainings for $15, and it's from beginner to advanced in terms of technical skills and everything. Grabbed it. It's probably well worth more. It's obviously worth more than that, but it's out there. It's not hard to find, and I get that just actually I get that from my boss, Bob. He goes, "Hey, check this out."
Legit. Yeah, if you have the time to do all of it.
Yeah, well, if you want to be in this field, and you like the field,
It's
it's not work.
it's
Yeah.
not. Yeah, yeah. I find my favorite things, like what I find most fulfilling in the field is having conversations with others, like what we're doing here, talking with others on LinkedIn. That's why I post on LinkedIn. I just want to have meaningful conversations and learn from others and, laugh a little bit and learn. It's good stuff. Well, thanks for your time, man. I really appreciate it. This has been awesome.
No problem. Today I meant to tell you this earlier before we started, but I got this from my ISC Squid group. Today is International Day for Failure. If you didn't know that,
Day
on October
day
13th.
of failure.
International Day for Failure. So there you go. I failed today for
I
you.
failed. Yeah, I failed today too.